This Babylock Accolade is my 2-in-1 cover stitch and serging machine that I purchased for myself in December of 2020. I've owned the machine for almost 2 years now, and I can say that it's by far and away the best purchase that I've made for my sewing practice. If you found this video, it's probably because you're on the search for a cover stitch or serging machine and you're wondering if the Accolade's price is really worth it. Now, of course, you could purchase other sergers for just a few $100, but if you've ever owned a lower end serger, you know that they're kind of a pain in the butt. They're difficult and time consuming to thread, they're really hard to get the settings right on, and thread breaks on them super often. Not to mention that if a single thread breaks, you have to rethread your entire machine. And every time you use a different kind of fabric, you have to change the settings to account for that. This is exactly how my very first serger was, and pretty much from the second I purchased it, it stayed in the closet and collected dust. All these issues just didn't seem worth it to me, so I never used it. So what exactly sets the Babylock Accolade apart from other lower end machines? First off, it has jet air threading, and in the simplest of terms, that essentially means that it threads itself. Now, of course, you do have to put some effort in on your part, but it's essentially as easy as pressing a button. Also, if a thread breaks, which by the way almost never happens, all you have to do is rethread that single thread. Like I said earlier, on lower end machines, if you break a thread, you have to rethread the entire machine. And for machines that don't have jet air threading, this can take a really long time. I'm going to be doing a whole series on my Babylock Accolade, and I'll have an in-depth tutorial on how to use the jet air threading. So be sure to stick around if that's something that interests you. In the series, I'm going to compile all the information and visuals you need to make an informed buying decision. So as I mentioned before, this is both a cover stitch and a serging machine, but that's not all it can do. There are actually 31 different ways to use this machine. It can sew up to 8 threads at a time, and it's honestly super user-friendly. It comes with a manual that's very easy to read and has great visuals, so you can thread your machine correctly every single time. Another crazy feature that the Accolade has is that it automatically adjusts the tension depending on the type of fabric that you put in it. That means that I could serge together multiple layers of thick denim and then immediately serge satin right behind it, and I wouldn't have to change any of the settings. Because of how easy and user-friendly this machine is, it saves a lot of time and frustration that you might otherwise have if you're using a lower end machine. Now, the argument that some people have against the Accolade is that they prefer to have 2 separate machines, one for cover stitching and one for serging. That way they don't have to rethread the machine when they want to change its function. Now, I get what they're saying, but I do see a few personal flaws with this argument. First off, most people don't have space for an extra sewing machine, and even if they did, buying 2 machines is more expensive than buying one machine that has 2 functions. If you bought the 2 equivalent machines from the same brand, you'd be looking at the Babylock Victory Serger machine and the Babylock Euphoria cover stitch machine. Together, they are $1,000 more than purchasing just the Accolade. I don't know about you, but that seems like an easy decision to me. Now to address the issue of rethreading. First off, it's super easy to switch from the cover stitch function to the serging function and vice versa. It probably only takes me a total of 3 minutes. For me, I'm not worried about the extra 3 minutes, and it's certainly not worth an extra $1,000 to have 2 separate machines. Also, even if you were batch sewing a ton of t-shirts, leggings, or other activewear pieces, you could simply serge all the seams together first and then switch over to a cover stitch and finish all the edges. That means you'd only have to switch the machine over 1 time when sewing an entire batch of clothes. Okay, so at this point you probably realize that I absolutely love my Accolade, but what about the price point? Is it really worth it? Well, I'll be the first to admit that this is an expensive machine. There's no doubt about that. The reason that I took the plunge was because at the time I had my own made-to-order sewing company, and I was sewing literally every single day, and I was making money from it. If you're in the same position, I would not hesitate to purchase this machine. I can't even tell you what a big difference it made for me. It increased the quality of my garments, which made more customers want to purchase from me, and because it saved me so much time, I was actually able to take on those customers because I had the extra time to do it. One time I had a customer come to me and say, "Wow, the quality of your stitches is just so much better than when you first started your business. I've really seen you grow." And I said, "Thank you, but I actually can't credit the quality of my clothes to me. It's my machines, it's that simple as that. I upgraded my machines and now I have a higher quality product." Nowadays, when people come to me and say that they're having trouble sewing a straight stitch or making their garments look professional, I can confidently say that although you can make beautiful work on your lower end sewing machines, it simply might not be your skills holding you back from the results that you want. The machine you have might be limiting you in terms of what you want to make and the quality of the items that you do make. For example, one staple piece that I used to make all the time for my business was this top here. I would not have been able to make it in this high of a quality with just a sewing machine or even a serger. The Accolade truly helped my business be able to grow to a sustainable form of income for me, and I was eventually able to quit my job and sew full-time from home. Now, what if you're just a home sewer? Is the price of the Babylock Accolade still worth it? Well, that depends on how you look at it, where your values lie, and if you have the disposable income. I personally believe that investing in your hobbies is a form of self-care. Let's take skiing, for example. Let's say that you absolutely love skiing, so you buy all the gear, you buy a season pass, and you drive all the way up to the mountain every single chance you get. It's a hobby that you love, you don't make any money from from it, and you spend a ton of money on it. But at the end of the season, you're not upset at the money that you spent because you had a great skiing season. In your eyes, your money was probably put to good use because you invested it in a hobby that you love. I look at sewing the exact same way. For me, it's a lifelong hobby, and investing in my tools increases my happiness and the quality of my products. If I had never owned a made-to-order company, I probably still would have invested in this machine. It just would have taken me a lot longer to get there. I don't ever recommend spending money that you don't have. And even when I purchased this machine for my business and I knew that it was gonna make me money, I intentionally set aside money until I was able to purchase it. Budgeting is super important, so if you decide that you wanna purchase this machine, I would highly recommend that you budget for it. We're all in different places in our sewing journey, so please don't compare where you're at to anyone else. You might be comparing your beginning to someone else's middle, and that's just not fair to you. Now, with all that being said, I hope that my insights on the Babylock Accolade help you make an informed decision. If you're interested in checking the current price or the specs on the Babylock Accolade, there's a link in my bio, and don't forget to stick around for the in-depth series that I'll be doing on my Accolade. Thanks for being here, and I'll see you in the next one.